everyone, Zubat here, another video. In today's video, I'm gonna show you how to play VIEGO, some tips and tricks. Overall, it will be some kind of VIEGO guide where I will tell you what is the best way how to play VIEGO in jungle, what are the best builds, clears, and I hope you'll enjoy it. VIEGO has been one of my favorite champions since it was released, back then in season 12 or 11, I believe so. And I've been kinda OTPing it, and I believe I know a lot about this champ, and I can definitely show you what are the best strategies and overall things that you can do with them. I'll start with basics, and the first thing that I'm gonna start with is clear. Clear is very simple. Most of the time we want to start with on Raptors with VIEGO, since VIEGO has Q, which helps him a lot when it comes to dealing with such camps like Raptors or even Wolves. I think overall these camps are quite the best option, I would say so. You have the fastest clears then, and also for the second clear, you're able to get as much experience as possible, and you are ready to play Drake early on, or even be stronger when it comes to grabs with level 6. So definitely starting on Raptors and Wolves should be your basic clear. Also, if you are not sure, you can also start on Raptor definitely and just do usual one, or even on Bubba, right? But I would always recommend you to start on camps like Wood or Raptors, because then you'll be way more useful in the game and you'll be able to interact with the map overall way better. Also, when you are clearing with VIEGO, it's very good to get on clear and you are aware that you are not getting invaded. Just get 2 points in the queue, because the clear will be way faster than if you would max E. But obviously, if you are afraid that you are getting invaded, or you want to gank a level 3 mate after 3 camps, you can obviously take also E and just gank over here and try to look on an enemy later. Also, one of my favorite clears that I was showing even in the previous video when I was explaining pathings. Overall, you can do obviously Raptors into enemy blue and Gromp, since you will be stronger than most of the junglers in the game. VIEGO has very strong level 2 and level 3, since he's attacking Conqueror really fast, and he's just dealing very well against any jungle champion, I would say so. If I get back to the mid lane ganks, the best way you want to mid gank is obviously going from this line, if you are ganking from this side. Because you can easily just... Star was not here, I'm gonna kill him. So, if you want to gank mid lane, obviously the best thing you can do against any mid laner basically is just to walk up as much as you can. And also the mid laners will also probably stand here or here, and there will be waves somewhere here. So you just want to go as much as you can, so they don't see you on vision. And then afterwards, get your W and max E. I mean start E. Because if you start your W right after you use your E, then you will have basically invisible W in your E, and it's way better than using EW, because then they see you casting it and they will expect you to get stunned. But if you will start casting it right after you use your E, they will not probably see you, and you will have way easier gank than if you would be starting with basically E first. So you always W first, E second, if you are ganking like that. It's the best way to get on your opponents. Let's speed things up. I'm gonna show you some builds which you can do on VIEGO, obviously. For a long time, I thought the only build on VIEGO is probably Kraken, and then you can basically decide. But for most of the cases in solo, you will always go Collector, and then Immortal Shield Bow / Ward of Regards, depending on the game. But since Kraken was really nerfed in recent patches, Trinity Force became useful as well in some games, where you can where basically you need some HP as well to survive such a fight where you basically cannot one shot and it's not one shot or you're dead. If you can also go Trinity, then again pair it with Collector, continue with Immortal Shield and Ward of Regards. In the past there was also a build where you could go Kraken and then Titanic Hydra, which kinda was its popularity recently, I would say so. I would say it's still playable build, but I definitely prefer the most Kraken and Collector build. It deals most damage, and if your team makes enough space in teamfight, you can definitely clean up the whole teamfight with that. Also considering the fact that we are playing Kraken, you are getting these Kraken stacks quite easily with Qs, proccing it quite fast. And also your ultimate is proccing Kraken, which is a very important mechanic, because you can basically one shot with Kraken proc enemy just with your ultimate, right? Very OP. So definitely Kraken, Collector, Immortal / or Dominix are probably the best build. Then depending on the game you can go Death Dance or anything you need. but if you feel like you are way too squishy and you need a bit more time to burn VIEGO, you can also start with Regenerative Force and go for Collector afterwards, once you learn how to play it. I would like to slowly show you how to play VIEGO in team fight right now. I will try to explain it by your words, even though I had some examples prepared, I low-key lost them. So I'm sorry for that. But basically, how you want to play team fights? Most of the time you will be probably playing Drake with your team approaching it, enemies already starting it. And you always need your team, if you're Nautilus, Ryuna or Ahri, you always need them to start a team fight. You can never start a team fight with VIEGO. You can obviously play with enemies with your around mist and your W. You can try to CC them always. But it's not the best option because they can caught you if they have control wards here, for example, and they spot you. It might be very hard for you to play the game. So it's always better to wait for your teammates to kinda chunk enemy. And if enemy goes on them, you just basically clean them up because your AD will be able to hit. You will get also W on them. The good example would be if an Alistar was here and if we were engaging on my team, I would want him to engage on my Talia, for example. Then CC him. He already has ult up, so I'm playing slowly. And then after we'll be chasing them a bit, I can just flash ult on Alistar and get easily reset on him. And then I can play the game afterwards quite easily, right? Also, you have to be really important, just a quick reminder, that you cannot take every reset in the team fight. We are playing against Maokai, obviously you can take reset and just be tanky as much as you want, because Maokai would most likely build some tanky builds. But also, there will be some Maokai who will be building Liandry, right? So we need to be really careful about the fact what enemies are building, what items are good into enemies, because for example, if you are playing against Maokai and he has full MR build, and one enemy team is basically full AD, then you will probably not be very useful with Maokai even though you have full MR build. You might be still more useful than your VIEGO reset, because you might not really have a lot of match resist. But still, he has more HP, he has some resistances, and most of the champions are still doing some magic damage, so you would like to have as much damage as you can, I mean as much HP as you can. So you need to be really careful about that as well. Now I would like to show you some resets. Basically, the interactions, how they work, even though most of you probably seen them already because VIEGO is already a new champ, right? It has been in the game for a few years already. There are some important facts or ways how you can use the resets, and I'll show you some basic ones basically. So here I have Maokai reset. There's no really much interesting thing about it. I just want to again remind you about one thing, that you always want to use as much abilities as you can as possible. Basically, if you are getting Maokai reset, you want to use his HP, you want to use his passive, because you have it for some second, but also, and what is really important, you want to also use his E. Before you get out of enemy passive, you want to use as much as their kits as possible. That basically means you are killing Maokai. You want to use his E, for example, before your position runs up, so because E stays for a long time and you want to get vision on them, right? So before the position runs out, I want to use E. So it stands there and I have vision, for example, for next play. And these small spells can be really useful in many ways, even though it might not be useful for most of the time. There are some percent of scenarios where you will be able to use them quite well. And also, really important fact that you have to keep in mind when you are using these spells like E, and you are again VIEGO, you will not deal as much damage as you would do if you would have Maokai reset, right? Because, for example, Maokai might be building some AP, and Maokai is scaling with AP, right? So, if I would be basically VIEGO right now, and I would have Maokai E, then I would do probably way less damage than I would do if I were Maokai, right? So, if I am Maokai, and I have E, my E is gonna deal way more damage than I would be VIEGO. It deals 71 damage. Now I get E, I have ult, and it deals 79 into caster minion, but into... Oh, actually this Maokai has no AP. Well, so yeah. I think you get the point. If enemy Twitch is also playing AP, you will deal way more damage with the AP spells than you would do as VIEGO. So keep it in mind when you're playing VIEGO, you always want to use the spells that would deal more damage in the resets than you would do if you are VIEGO. Maybe also some trick that I can show you when you're saying objective, even though you might not use it quite often. You can basically do ult flash, It's quite unusual that people do it, I would say so. Where if they basically ult, they flash, and they are getting out, right? You can do such a things. What most people will do, they will just ult into the pit. Give me a second, because it's not the easiest task to do it. They want to ult, flash, and the flash out, right? So ult, smite, flash out. It's quite hard to do. Oh, okay, I did it now. Perfect. Basically, you are ulting on the one place where you were standing. You are trying to pop your flash and smite after, and you are getting on the place where you started ulting, right? So always ult first, then flash, and then smite obviously, and you will get back. You might not use it for most of the time, but if you want to just get quick back, smite, then definitely one of the options you can do. Let's get to be a reset once again. I have Lulu and Twitch here. When you are playing against Enchanter, you will most of the time you just want to use like you would like to always use as much as their, I would say, defensive spells as you can. That means Lulu's movement speed and E. Right, so you can get these also on VIEGO when you are, for example, chasing enemies, or you just need shield. You want to use it and basically make reset as much as useful as possible. And that's it for Lulu. For Twitch, there is one very interesting mechanic, I would say so, where you can basically take Twitch resets, and once your reset is running out slowly and you are still Twitch, and for example you are roaming to mid right now, you want to use this Q right after your reset is running out, and now you are invincible as VIEGO. Now you can basically do mid gank as a melee champion with invisibility. You can walk up to enemy melee, just W, and you have even attack speed from Twitch Q. This mechanic is the same with Shaco. If you are using Shaco Q right after your position is running out, you will be invincible as well. And these spells are really OP to use. You can also kill the Twitch right. For example, I can imagine the situations when you are trying to kill enemy AD carry on bot. Enemy AD carry is Twitch, obviously, and you basically kill him. And then, after you kill him, you are trying to running out because, for example, enemies are chasing you and they want to get you. So you just basically press Q right before you reset them out, you recall, and you are recalling invisible. With Twitch you can do the same, so why not with VIEGO? I have more interactions to show you with Maokai and I mean with Hecarim and Alistar, but before that I want to also show you the spot where you can hide with VIEGO when you are being chased, which is basically this E around this wall, where you can hide right in the middle of the golems. Enemy will not probably see you, they will probably just chase you here, but you will be hiding here and you can press recall and escape very easily. What I definitely recommend you is to not recall in this maze where you started basically, because it's quite easily visible, right? People might expect you to recall in this mist even when you're recalling on any other places. But go always a bit further, reset there, just chill. And enemies might not find out that you are resetting here. But okay, let's get back to positions. Another positions I would like to show you is Alistar and Easy. If you are playing against champs like Alistar, the interaction you can do, it's kinda similar to Twitch Q, is that you can basically start with Alistar E, even when you have reset already, and it will stay with you even for VIEGO, and then you can CC with VIEGO auto attack. It's quite OT, many people don't know about it, I believe. So you can basically start with your E, use most of the Alistar kit, and then even get E and get CC with VIEGO auto attack, which is OP as fuck. In team fights, I started for the best VIEGO reset, honestly. I can't really remember that there will be another better reset for VIEGO, but you can just EQ, E, you can ult, and you have Alistar E. Obviously, when you're ult stunned with Alistar E, so you have even CC with Alistar E, I think it's absolute cinema for VIEGO to get such a reset. And the last reset I want to show you is Hecarim. With Hecarim, and for example in AP champs like Brand with his Burn, Zyra with Liandry, Lilia and stuff, you have their spells, and they are using Burn or any kind of damage that is doing damage by second, right? You can for example use Hecarim W, and we are playing VIEGO, you will have perma passive on enemy camps. You will get double auto attacks, perma, and it's so OP. You can do the same with, as I mentioned, Brent passive, Zyra, Liandry of, for example, Lilia. Even Lilia's passive is doing the same, I believe so. So these are the interactions we want to use. It's also honorable mentioning that, for example, you can use Azir Tower as a VIEGO reset. So if you are standing next to the tower, you can use Azir Tower and it will basically stay there. In the past, there are also passives like Ornn that would be very broken, but unfortunately Riot removed it. But you can, for example, use Teemo passive for a bit if you are still in the Teemo form. You can't really use it as a VIEGO, unfortunately. And probably the last reset that is worth to mention is definitely LeBlanc passive, which you can use as a distraction to enemies. And I mean overall clones, as even Nico W is quite OP on VIEGO, since enemies don't really know who you are and they are just busy. That will be it for resets. The last tip or fun fact I want to show you is to be very careful with your E when you are clearing, and or if you're even doing objectives, because it's quite a big difference if you are playing Drake, if you are using your E only for this, for attack speed, right? Or if you are using your E to get E all over this arena, because in some examples your E might be really useful to get all over the area, right? To scare enemies even though they don't come, but in some cases you will warn enemy that you are doing the Drake and they will easily come and kill you, because it has quite long cooldown. So be careful of that, try to use E in the small area if you think enemy can contest, and you can easily get an objective without being even noticed. And yeah, that will be it for this guide. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learned something. Definitely follow, share, like and subscribe for next videos. If you have any questions or if you would like any other guide for any other jungle champion, let me know in the comments. And see ya in the next video.